This is the Reds POSTCAST, your instant game reaction for the Cincinnati Reds. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Good evening, Reds fans, and welcome to another edition of the POSTCAST brought by Locked On Reds and the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Tim Daniel, and on tonight's show, the Ohio Cup officially leaves Cincinnati and heads back to Northeast Ohio. The Reds are 1 for 10 tonight with runners in scoring position and strike out 16 times, but we're going to start the show with Brady Singer not getting any help from the Reds, upping his trade value.
This is what you'll be talking about.
So we're going to start with Brady Singer because I feel really bad for him, honestly. And hey, if you're watching on YouTube and wondering why I look different, I'm going to be honest, I lost my glasses. I don't know where I put them. So I feel weird too. My eyes hurt a lot, but we're going to get through this together as a team. So Brady Singer tonight is kind of cruising for a while, like looks pretty promising. You know, it's a guy that team's going to be looking for starting pitching, a guy that the Reds might get some phone calls on. And he was doing fine until he wasn't. Now, you can look at his box score and go 4 and a third, four runs given up, 4 walks, 3 strikeouts. That's not very good, Tim. Yes, you're right. But the 5th inning did him in, and it was the people behind him, because the Reds and fundamentals aren't something to go hand in hand. If you haven't been watching this team for a long time, you're like, what is going on with them? But if you haven't been watching for a long time, what I'm telling you is nothing different than the norm. So there's the Ellie has his error, which is whatever. It's not great. And then right after Ellie has his error, him and Evan Arroyo have some sort of weird miscommunication on who's supposed to cover the bag on what should have been a double play. And then the floodgates open. Travis Bazzana gets a single. That brings in Stephen Kwan. So they're down 1-0. You're like, okay, sure, whatever. Bottom of the 6th, the Reds can't back up. And then Kyle Manzardo does Kyle Manzardo things yet again. I have a feeling he's going to be getting the Ohio Cup's most outstanding player this year. He gets his 13th homer of the year to make it a 5-1 game in the top of the 7th. And yeah, that's basically the summary of the game. I feel really bad for Brady Singer because the 4 runs he gave up, all of them were unearned. And yeah, the walks aren't great, but this is a guy who's really turned it on of late. This is a guy who's pitched really well. And this is a guy who, like I said, might be a guy that people who are in a postseason race, trying to, some of these teams ahead of them in the National League wild card, trying to get a guy to kind of help the rotation or even a division leader. He could be a guy a team calls on. And so now he's got to kind of defend himself almost. But he's kind of got this thing where, he started out really, really slow this year, right? And didn't look very promising. And then he just turned it on of late. And you can kind of see him kind of finding that groove. And I really think that, his last 7 games, he's got a 2.81 ERA, but he's 2-4 in that time. I won't say the things I always say. But his last 2 outings in particular, before this one, he was awesome in Colorado. He was really good in Seattle. And today, like I said, all 4 runs that were scored on him were unearned. The walks were just a little too high. So I still think he's a guy that if teams are looking for starting pitching, he's going to kind of get a call. He's going to be a guy people are interested in. I think the Cubs have been linked to him, which would crush my soul, but obviously I'd get it because they're pretty decent. So now we just kind of play the waiting game. Was this his last start as a Red? Was it worth the risk of pitching him today? I don't know. That's probably a question for Jeff and Steve on their show tomorrow, but hopefully we can kind of get to the point where we see if they can get a good package for him, or maybe he's back next year. Not counting on it. Otherwise, the offense today was terrible.
Uh-oh, somebody messed up, and it's time to let them know with who fudged up.
I'm going to lay this out for you. So the Reds score 1 run. They have 6 hits. They have 4 walks. They have 16 strikeouts, including 2 guys having 3 strikeouts in the same game. Sal Stewart has 3 strikeouts. He can still do no wrong. Sal's my guy. And Ivan Johnson has 3 strikeouts, which, look, I'm all for being patient with guys getting up to the big leagues and getting their chances, but Ivan Johnson doesn't look like a big leaguer. I hope I'm wrong because the Reds need as many big leaguers as possible, but he's not giving me big leaguer vibes. So yeah. Ellie gets a walk, but he kind of after the first game of the doubleheader yesterday, he kind of started slumping a little bit, and it's a little small stretch, so I'm not freaking out about it. Dane Myers continues to hit well. He's got his OPS up over 750, just further proving that TJ Friedel should never play an outfield spot for the Reds ever again, unless it's absolute desperation. Find a way to not do that anymore. I'd really appreciate it. But Myers gets another hit tonight, has a walk in the 9th inning. Gino gets a hit, but has 3 strikeouts. Oh, I'm sorry. They had 3 guys with 3 strikeouts tonight. Forgive me. I had that wrong. Sal Stewart has 3 strikeouts. Gino has 3 strikeouts. Ivan Johnson has 3 strikeouts. So, yeah. Tyler Stevenson gets on base twice, gets a hit and a walk. So, that was nice. If it's one guy who kind of is also being linked to a bunch of trade options. Teams are going to be needing catchers. So, he's kind of been hitting pretty well the last month or so. So that's a good idea to look at. Noelvi Marte has this typical Noelvi Marte game where he has one move where you're like, that was awesome. And he has one where you're like, what are you doing? Goes 1 for 4 with an RBI and a strikeout. JJ Bled ends up pitching in for him. Edwin Arroyo, I don't know. I just said all that stuff about Ivan Johnson. Edwin Arroyo's had more opportunity, but looks like he's swinging a newspaper. And obviously second base is not for him of what we've seen so far. And keep Ryan Hayes is keep Ryan Hayes. I don't think we could add any more to that. But the offense tonight was really bad. And I get majority of the year they've been really bad. But there's just some things with them that I don't understand. And situational hitting is one of them because tonight they also go 1 for 10 with runners in scoring position. Now, I know this doesn't fully correlate to winning or losing games. Like, it does help, but it's not the be-all, end-all for winning and losing games. With that said, how many of these games do they go like 1 for 10 or 2 for 13 or something like that, and they lose by 2 to 6 runs? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying you're going to go through every opportunity you're going to get a hit. That's not what I'm trying to say here. But this is something where we see this all too many times. Retired Dude says Reds struck out 41 times in this series. This team is so bad offensively. Arroyo doesn't even seem comfortable at second base. Yeah, I can't argue any of that right now. I don't know. I'm kind of looking forward to the trade deadline in the sense of maybe we get to see some younger guys come up, like the Hector Rodriguez's, the group, and just see if they're worth anything. See if they're, I have to imagine he's better than some of the guys currently getting at bats for the Reds. So that's the part I'm kind of looking forward to see who gets their opportunity to come up and play the rest of the year. Not saying there's going to be a lot of guys because the farm system isn't exactly getting you all excited about the future. But we need something. We need some new blood. And we need a reason to watch the rest of the season because this has been really bad. And I don't know how it's ever going to get any better anytime soon. But hey, also to add to the fun of tonight, the Ohio Cup is no longer in Cincinnati. So let's talk about that right after this. But first, a big thank you to our friends at Amazon for this limited break. This back-to-school season, spend less on your kids with Amazon. We all know how crazy back-to-school shopping experience can be. It starts with a few items on the list, then suddenly you're shopping for supplies, clothes, lunch gear, tech, and about 10 other things you didn't see coming. It adds up fast. When you look at the school supply list and wonder if you're shopping for one child or opening a small office supply store. I didn't realize first grade required this much inventory. Shopping like this can get out of control if you're not careful. Whether your school says your child needs a calculator, headphones, tablet for class, and somehow you're buying another one before the semester's halfway over. Since when do kids need so much tech for the 3rd grade? When it's 9 p.m. the night before school starts and somebody suddenly remembers they need folders, notebooks, markers, and apparently 12 other things nobody mentioned until now. Nothing gets the heart rate up quite like emergency school shopping. I'm convinced Prime's Deliver Tomorrow Before 7 a.m. feature was created exclusively for parents in this moment. So remember, with Amazon's low back-to-school prices, you just spend less on your kids because every dollar you don't spend on them is a dollar you haven't spent on them. Shop back to school at Amazon and spend less on your kids. Thank you all for tuning in tonight as the Cincinnati Reds are not doing so well and take a 6-1 loss as well. If we're already an everydayer, please be sure to step up and join your everydayer club here at lockedonreds.supercast.com. It's $5 a month or $50 a year. Get access to ad-free episodes, and you also get access to our Discord chat as well. Ricky Young says, now please tell me, did De La Cruz make a mistake tonight? I don't know if you just tuned in, Ricky, my friend, but I just covered all that. I sure did. I don't understand this whole like Tim's O'Reilly De La Cruz apologist. Call it like I see it. All right. So the Ohio Cup has officially gone back to the Guardians. And I joke about this a lot because I think it's it's so funny how they're trying to make this rivalry thing happen. It's kind of like in Mean Girls when we're trying to make fetch happen. I don't think people are really dying at this. They're not like, oh, hey, we got the Ohio Cup. There's no t-shirts, except for the Guardians when they made those Cincinnati's and Kentucky shirts a couple years ago. And people got mad about that, but I thought it was hilarious. Neither here nor there. This has been weird because the Reds have been really good against the American League this year, but lost 4 of the 6 games against Cleveland this season. And I wouldn't necessarily say Cleveland's like awesome. They're 56 and 54. But they're also in the American League. So it's kind of one of these things where they're going to like probably have a chance at the American League wild card. Also a team that probably could use a Brady Singer. Hint, hint, cough, cough, please. So now we kind of, hopefully that's the move they go for them. But I don't know how the Reds just weren't competitive with this team this year. And obviously the Reds just aren't good. Call it what it is. But it's not, like I said, this isn't a Cleveland team that's very much better than him. All good, Ricky. I'm just having some fun, man. I hope it didn't annoy you by any means. I apologize. But this is a team the Reds should play better against. And it's a team that, they see a lot of in spring training, obviously, for sharing a complex. They see a lot of, they get 2 series with them every year because of the closeness of the 2 teams, obviously being a couple-hour drive between each other. As someone who covers both the Reds and the Cavaliers, I can tell you how weird it is to cover a Cincinnati and Cleveland team here at Locked On. So you would suspect that they would just kind of have a general idea and a better understanding. Now, let's not take away from the Guardians here by any stretch of the matter. Stephen Kwan is kind of starting to come back together. Jose Ramirez is turning back into Jose Ramirez. Chase DeLauder, Travis Bazanda, they're bringing other young guys up. Ryan Rocchio is giving them something for the first time. And Kyle Manzardo just mashes against the Reds, apparently. I think he's becoming on that Christian Yelich list of like, just don't pitch to that guy. Just let him move along. Walk him, whatever. Don't give him anything to hit. Because he crushed 2 home runs in this series. So it's not fun. I would like to see them get better with this team, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. So kudos to the Guardians. Please make fun of the Reds a little more in your clubhouse, because it always makes my day and makes other people mad. Other things I want to dive into today, because I don't seem to understand. The Reds left 10 guys on base tonight. And I know I just got in the last segment to runners in scoring position, but man, I would love to see, and I should get better at diving into these stats as far as team-wise for the season, what the Reds look like compared to the rest of the majors in runners left on base, because I feel like it is entirely too much. I have to imagine they're amongst the worst at it, because they're amongst the worst majority, the majority of offensive stats, except for like homers. It's like the one thing they do because they live and die by the long ball. We'll see if that's going to be the case if Lowe and Blade are here next week. But I don't understand this this lack of situational hitting. One thing particular I think is not working is the Chris Valaika experiment. And I hate to say that. I liked Chris a lot when he was a player here. I thought he was going to be a pretty decent ball player, battled injuries, so on and so forth. And, he's on the Guardians teams with Tito, and they were solid. They were going to the playoffs year in and year out. But it also made sense to me when a bunch of Guardians people were like, he's not ours anymore. So now I see what they were talking about. And so there's got to be a change there. I mean, there's got to be a change in a lot of ways. I don't want to just kind of dive in that, but they leave too many guys on base. It's unacceptable at this point. Let's finish on the bullpen. Caleb Ferguson comes in, gets 2/3 of an inning, just knocks it out. Chase Petty, ending a third, wasn't his best self as he has been. We've seen him play pretty decent through the year. 2 earned runs, 4 hits, a walk, a strikeout, and of course gives up the Manzardo homer. By the way, I'm just going to say this real quick. I don't care about Chase Petty's tattoos. The fact that we've got 2 segments out of this in the last week, like, I got tattoos. I love tattoos. I don't need to see this dude's whole body. What he's got, what the Yankees got. Doesn't change anything for me watching a baseball broadcast. Maybe you disagree. So be it. Julian Garcia tonight just keeps pitching well. I don't know. Like I said, I'm kind of thinking that I had his ceiling lower than I should have. I don't know if it's going to be this good next year too, but he's been solid. And Pierce Johnson, who also might be a guy that's not here next week, gets the last inning as well. So pitching was okay. I mean, they really only had 2 earned runs the whole game, and they lost 6-1. So take that for what it is with the defense behind them. I just don't know how things are going to look. And, now obviously they have a series coming with the Pirates. And I know the Pirates fans who love to come in here and bust my chops, like to come in here, are looking forward to this 4-game set this week, but we'll see how things go from there. But hey, the Reds do lose tonight once again to the Cleveland Guardians, 6-1. The Guardians have 6 runs on 12 hits and no errors. The Reds have 1 run on 6 hits and 2 errors. Your winning pitcher tonight is Eric Sabrowski. He is now 4-2 with a 348 earned run average. Brady Singer takes the loss. He is 5-10 with a 435. And as I mentioned, tomorrow the Pittsburgh Pirates come to town for 4 games this weekend, and we are going to go ahead and see who's going to pitch tomorrow because my system decided not to work for me here. Perfect. Rhett Lauder takes the hill for the Reds. He is 3-7 with a 5.61 ERA. He'll be going up against Johan Ramirez, who is 6-3 with a 3.21 ERA. First pitch is at 7:10, so I will be here probably around this time tonight. That'll be there tomorrow. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Please be sure to hit that notification button on your favorite podcast app of choice or here on YouTube so you can not only get me after every game, but get Jeff and Steve Monday through Friday as well. And don't forget to check out the Everydayer Club. They're offering 7-day trials right now as well. Everyone, thank you again. I'm Tim Daniel. Go Red Legs. I'll see you tomorrow. Hopefully I find my glasses by then.